Hi all, my name's Dan Gray and I wrote a program called APMLogVisualizer. You can see on this window here I have a bunch of log files, and I kind of like this log file. So I double click on the file and I have my Windows Explorer set up so it automatically runs APMLogVisualizer. So you can see here in this area of the screen is the path that the copter took during this APM log. So you can see this little cross represents where the copter is sitting here right now. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to see where it is on the ground. So I'm going to click, and now we can see it's right here. This is where I fly my copter, and we park our cars right here in this little turnaround, and then we fly in this field. It's a pretty nice field for it. It doesn't hurt anybody, nobody's there, and if it crashes, it might crash on dirt instead of concrete, which is a good thing. Been there, done that. Okay, we'll close that. Okay, so you can see the red area here. That means if it's red, it's in the stabilized mode. You can also see some magenta lines here. That means it's in the loiter mode. And the green mode here, it's in the auto mode. And then there's only one more color. You can see a brown color right here where it's in the, I think this is land, but everything else is brown. So I'm going to grab this. I think I found it right about here. So it's in the land mode. Yeah, see the little copter right there? And you can see the current mode is land. And if I click on land, you can see, if I move this a little bit, this is a problem because my screens are too small. So I'm going to resize this, make this be a little shorter. Okay, you see that? As I'm sliding the slider, there's a little vertical bar in the graph. And were this actually bigger, you would see that this mode average, you would see that it says land. As I move it around here, land, stabilize, loiter, loiter, auto. And here's a funny little thing. It looks like it went out of auto for 1 second. And that's a little bug I'm trying to, it's probably radio interference. Anyway, that was one graph that I showed you. But now let me run this around a little bit. You can see the little copter running around. Let's get in the auto area where it's easier to see. So now it's right by that waypoint. I'm sliding the slider left to the right. I can play the log forward, and I'll speed it up here. Now you can see the little guy running around all by himself because I'm playing. And if I click on the graph, let's click on the volts. You can see that it's tracking along. You can see the current mode. And you can see these copters here orienting themselves as it was at that particular point in the log. And I can go reverse if I want. I can stop it. I can grab it and slide it. Another thing is this right here, this brown bar graph is the altitude. You can see for this run the highest it got was about 42 meters. The graphing is pretty cool. So right now I have 2 points up here. I don't like those, so I'm going to click that, and I'm going to show you the volts and the amps. I like those because now I can zoom in on this area, and it'll show me my average for that area. Average amperage is 19.2 amps. So using that information and my battery amp hours, I can actually calculate how long my copter will stay in the air. That's pretty cool. Another thing, if you click on something that you already have, they disappear. So now we have a clear graph. Now let's put up our 4 motors. We'll see how they do. We'll zoom into an area here, and it looks like the blue or the cyan line is a little bit higher than the others, not by much. If I look at their averages, let me expand this out a little bit. It's a little bit higher, but they're all within reasonable. They're reasonably balanced. Maybe my copter isn't quite balanced. So let's clear those out, and let's go with the absolute altitude. Now this is absolute altitude, which is based on the GPS. You can compare that to the mix altitude. You can see where there's some differences, and I'm not sure why. There's everything here that's green you can click on. Here's the barometer altitude. And let's get rid of this guy. I'll right click on the GPS, and now we're going to expand into an area. Now those are very similar. They're almost on top of each other. They're almost on top of each other. So in other words, the mix altitude and the barometer altitude are very, very close. We can put anything up here. Let's put longitude air and nav longitude. Let's get rid of these two because they're... And now we can zoom in here, and we can see that I have a little problem of overshoot. And this would be helpful for tuning it. That's pretty nice. And you can put, here's the sonar altitude, here's the throttle, and you can compare the throttle with the amps. Let's clear the graph and do that again. Throttle in and amps. And if we zoom in on an area, we'll see that the amps go down nicely when the throttle's off. That's pretty cool. Even latitude and longitude. And let's see if there's anything else. I showed you how we can click on an area of the map. I think I'm pretty much out of features, except for it has a little help file that tells some of the features, that I didn't talk about. So you can read that. There's even a help file in the graph. I'll call this up again. Click here for help. There's a little graph helpful hints. And I think that's about it. Let's load up another log file, because you can load them up either by the command line or... Okay, this is a good one, because this log file has 39 bad lines in it, and they really are bad. It's like characters missing, etc., etc. And this lets you know about it. I click OK, but it still works. I can still run the little guy around, and I can still... this was before I had my amp sensor, so these are all 0. But the motors, looks like I wasn't logging them. That's the other thing, is you have to turn on and log the things that you want to log. I suggest logging everything, because it's all useful information. And I think you can actually do that by turning turning on all instead of one at a time. I figured that out on my own. Okay, I think that's about it for now. Talk to you later.